another game to be hyped about in 2023. Final Fantasy XVI is looking to be an amazing game, and I have a lot of faith in that. It's coming off the heels of Final Fantasy XV, which wasn't so widely popular and widely received because it just really was an unfinished product. If we remember, Final Fantasy XV started off as the game Final Fantasy Versus 13, and there was a lot of promise to it back in the PS3 era. It was scheduled to be a PS3 exclusive, but unfortunately it never even released in that era. It was then revived, or rather announced as Final Fantasy 15, where they changed the name, they changed the producer and everything like that. And basically the second producer went and tried to finish the game. Unfortunately, it still felt very unfinished. I know those of you who play Final Fantasy 15 know what I'm talking about. But with Final Fantasy 16, it's looking to be a lot different. Final Fantasy 16 is being handled by Creative Business Unit 3, which, if you don't know who they are actually the people who saved Final Fantasy 14, the MMO. If you remember back in the days, 2020, around 2011, 2012, when Final Fantasy 14 originally announced, the launch rather, there were so many issues with that game. I mean, honestly, I was actually one of them who went and played it, and even though I did enjoy it, there was a lot of things that I can get that people just didn't like about it. It was very time consuming. I mean, honestly, like, you really needed to be with a party to do almost anything. But when Naoki Yoshida, aka Yoshi P, stepped in with his team to fix it, he did a major overhaul. Not only that, the story was amazing. They continued the story where the original 14 left off in the Realm Reborn, and they just made it even better. And that's why I have faith in this team. A lot of people are worried about because of where Final Fantasy has been at in the last few entries in the series. And this might not be as good, but honestly, I think you should definitely be hyped about this game. And I'm telling you, be hyped, because Yoshi P doesn't let down. If you know anything about Final Fantasy XIV, you would know that their team has put out banger after banger after banger. I mean, honestly, I did stop playing in Heaven's Ward, but that was due because it was very time consuming. But I still followed the storyline overall, watching different people on YouTube just play through it and kind of see what the story was about and reading up about it. And the story just seems so amazing. I just can't wait for them I can't wait to see what they did in Final Fantasy 16. Now, I know there is a little bit of, or rather, there's some people out there that are very scared of what this game might be, because the actual combat director is the person who did Dragon's Dogma and Devil May Cry 5. Yeah, I get it. Those are very action RPG, or rather, one's an action game completely and the other one's an action RPG, and it might make it kind of, worry. And for those of you who really want turn-based Final Fantasy, I don't think that's coming back in this form or in the AAA form. But it's still showing some promise, and it's showing there's going to be a lot of complexity to it. I mean, honestly, action RPGs I just feel are the way to go nowadays. If you look at games like The Witcher, where there's a lot of action elements, that's definitely the right direction to take, especially with a lot of Western RPGs getting that influence, right? There's still plenty of other turn-based RPGs out there, such as the Octopath Traveler series, the Bravely Default series, and even Persona, as of right now, is action RPG. I'm not really mentioning Dragon Quest because they did state that the combat system in this new Dragon Quest 12, is going to be a little bit different, but we have yet to see what that's about because there's no information on that game. But I still think that this game is still showing some promise, especially in the story side of things. So if you can get past the combat being action-based, I highly recommend putting this on your radar for sure. Now, there's a bunch of stuff to dive in as regarding the story elements of this, and apologies in advance if you see me going ahead and stare at my monitor as I look through my notes. But the story takes place in a world where you start off as Clive Rosefield, who basically is the firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria, which is funny. I believe Rosaria was a place in Final Fantasy XII. And fun fact, some of the people on this team did work on Final Fantasy XII in the Evilist Alliance games. So definitely another reason to be hyped, because I think those had the best storylines in terms of like that conflict with warring nations and things like that, which again is funny enough, this game has that inside it as well. But basically, Clive is what's dubbed a shield, where he shields his younger brother, or basically he's a guard of his younger brother, who inherits Phoenix. Unfortunately, him being the first son, everybody thought that he was going to inherit the Phoenix, but he didn't. So he kind of looks to be, to struggle to find his own role within the kingdom, and he becomes a shield, where he just basically shields his brother from other things happening. And it looks like you take place with him, and it looks like there's also a time skip, because if you look at the trailers, they have shown him as a younger version, where he's maybe 15, 16. I know he doesn't look that age, but you know. In JRPG years, typically you look like a grown man when you're 15. But then it fast forwards him to being older, where he's definitely more buffed. He has like a goatee and stuff like that, and it looks like there's some type of time skip, which is going to be interesting to see. I did like the time skip scenario in Final Fantasy XV, which showed Noctis younger and of course Noctis older, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays off. But it looks like, and this is a theory for me, as you're playing as Clive throughout his younger years, it looks like war starts breaking out and things just start going crazy. And it looks like they go and look for Joshua, or rather maybe the king, and they're trying to capture either the king or Joshua to receive the Phoenix. And that's basically just where everything just goes crazy, and it looks like the main story will start off from there. I'm not sure what the role of the main protagonist is, and whether you as Clive is trying to get revenge or something else. Maybe you're trying to save Joshua, find Joshua, who knows. But man, I can tell you, conflict escalates big time, and we can see all the different icons, which are basically the summons from all the previous Final Fantasy games, coming through and fighting each other. And that's going to be pretty awesome, because it looks like not only are the icons these giant huge things for cutscenes, but you're also going to be able to fight these icons and play as these icons as you go through the story mode, which I think is a huge thing in my opinion. I remember seeing in Final Fantasy XV how giant the summons were and how cool they were looking, but all they were just cutscenes that appear and do one move and you're kind of done. Here they kind of changed that, where you do control both the icons and you fight the icons, which I think is going to be a huge game changer, honestly, especially seeing how tall they are. Man, I just tell you, I can't wait. Summons have been a very important part of the Final Fantasy franchise, and I just can't wait to see what they're going to do with the summons. It also looks like as Clive, you get their powers. It looks like he's maybe special, where he does gain the powers of all the different icons. As you can see in some of the gameplay footage I should have playing right now, he's doing all these different moves. You can see like Garuda's wing, or what looks like to be Titan's fist, or maybe it's Ifrit's fist, or something like that. You have all these different moves that he's coming through, and it looks like they're based off the icons over there. So it's definitely something to be looking forward to for sure. Now, I'm loving the art direction that they're taking in Final Fantasy XVI. Regardless of what you think about Nomura's artwork, I really do enjoy his artwork, but it's nice to see something different for a change. The main art director for Final Fantasy XVI also worked on other games such as like Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XIV. So if you look at the characters, I mean, they look very similar. There's actually one character who literally looks like the main character they're always showing for Final Fantasy XIV, which is just supposed to be like the default character who's supposed to be you. But like, he literally looks exactly like that. And I wonder, is that intentional? Is that an Easter egg, or you just happen to just do that? I'm pretty sure it's intentional, because they look too similar, which is pretty cool though. Yep, you're definitely the Final Fantasy XIV main character for sure. I mean, just look at this guy. You can't tell me he's not the main character of Final Fantasy XIV. He looks exactly like him. But yeah, I think the art direction is going to be amazing. I just can't wait to dive into this world, and I love the artwork. I'm also a big fan of just artwork, and I feel like an artwork does stick out when it comes to like game design. If you have good artwork in your game design, then I think it's going to get you further. For example, like in the Fire Emblem series, I do prefer kind of the older artwork of Fire Emblem, such as like Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, versus the newer anime style of artwork that they have on like Awakening and Fates and games like that. Even Fire Emblem Echoes, I really love that art style, because it's not just over-the-top anime. It has like a beautiful aesthetic to it that's unique to pretty much that franchise, which is pretty cool. So I'm glad to see that there's different artwork out there for Final Fantasy XVI, and I'm telling you, it's starting to look amazing. I really love the artwork in Final Fantasy XIV. I've used a lot of it as my wallpaper backgrounds, so I'm really glad that they have the same team doing that for this game. Again, another reason to be hyped. Now, as always, it won't be a James video if I don't mention the music, and man, I can give you a million reasons of why to be hyped for this music, because it's going to be done by no other than Soken himself, who has some amazing tracks in Final Fantasy XIV. Honestly, I feel like he's the true successor to Nobuo Uematsu when it comes to basically just the musical score. It is different compared to what you would get with Uematsu, but it has a nice flavor that still fits the Final Fantasy the Final Fantasy theme, which I think is amazing. I'll have some of those tracks playing in the background as I'm talking through these videos, and if you do like those tracks, then you know what to expect with this. We've already heard 2 tracks of his, such as one of the very first trailers that we saw for Final Fantasy XVI, and another trailer, which is this current one that's actually playing in the background, which has a pretty hype track. But I can't wait to see what he does with boss tracks, because the boss tracks for when you're fighting the summons or the primals in Final Fantasy XIV are amazing, and I really would like songs like that to fit in the game or to make it to the game. Just can't wait. It's going to be hype. I'm telling you, be prepared. In conclusion, if you're worried about Final Fantasy XVI, or maybe you're on the fence, I think you can put your faith in Yoshi P himself. I think he's kind of proved himself that he can fix a game, and he can also single-handedly carry the Final Fantasy franchise on his back. Final Fantasy XIV is probably the best Final Fantasy to come out in years since Final Fantasy X and XII. So I highly recommend being hyped about this. I'm telling you, I have all the faith in the world that this game is going to be amazing, and I really trust Yoshi P with what he's doing here. I'm pretty sure he's not dumb. He knows what people are expecting, and he knows that Final Fantasy 15 and even the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy left a very sour taste in people's mouths, such as me. I do know there's people out there that really love 15 and 13, and hey, not judging you, we're all entitled to our opinion. Just for me, 13 was definitely super lackluster, and 15 unfortunately could have been a lot better. It just fell short of the greatness that was, 10 and 12 and 7, 8, 9, and pretty much all the other Final Fantasy games except for those. So I mean, I do recommend being hyped for this, man. I know you're probably thinking like, what, recommend being hyped? What is that? No, I'm telling you, be hyped, because it's gonna get crazy when this game unleashes. I'm telling you, it's gonna be crazy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And also don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know, are you pretty hyped for Final Fantasy 16? Or are you on the fence because of what happened with previous Final Fantasy games? Definitely leave a comment below, because I'll be reading through it myself, leaving my comments as well and replying back. For sure, be sure to check out also our live streams that we have 4 days a week, where we do group streams, and we also do our solo streams and our podcast every Sunday. And we're also available on Twitch as well, so go ahead and check us out at the Random Encounter Podcast over on Twitch. My name is James from Random Encounter, and we'll see you next time.